Those who have experienced the paranormal know, in the world of exorcism, there are 3 supreme omens. If you see one, you must run for your life. And the most terrifying of the 3 supreme omens is undoubtedly the inverted Jesus. Once the crucifix reverses, it signifies the arriving demon must be an archdemon, a supreme entity. However, the exorcism world witnesses a reappearance of a supreme omen. When Jesus is inverted and blood seeps out, this means the demon coming must be a fallen archdemon. For demons of this rank, even the exorcism tools must be the extra-large crucifix. This is the Vatican's latest thrilling exorcism film of 2025, St. Catherine, based on the real exorcism records of St. Catherine, Catherine's cathedral. When an archdemon sets its sights on a human, a fierce battle is destined to await the exorcist. The story begins with an exorcism. In a Nordic town, a detective brought a girl to the nuns of St. Catherine's cathedral. The man's name was Mills. Just 2 weeks prior, the church where Mills served received a request. A girl named Ellie was possessed by a demon and had harmed many villagers. Upon receiving the request, Father Gacy rushed to the village immediately. In the village's sewer, Father Gacy found Ellie chained up. He took out a crucifix intending to perform the exorcism. But who could have known? As Father Gacy approached, the demon inside Ellie suddenly manifested. The demon used only one move, and Father Gacy was sent to meet God. Receiving the news, Mills realized this demon might not be an ordinary one. This was no longer something their level of novice exorcists could handle. Mills immediately brought the girl to the cathedral. St. Catherine's Cathedral is an advanced convent. This was once the preaching ground of the Holy 12 nuns. The nuns within the cathedral possess formidable spiritual power. After Mills left, Susan took Ellie to a guest room. She told Ellie not to worry. No matter how powerful the demon, it was just a matter of a single ritual. Susan's comfort eased Ellie's tense mood considerably. Exhausted, she lay on the bed and unknowingly fell asleep. Yet, the moment Ellie closed her eyes, she dreamt once more of being possessed by the demon. She saw a horned demon appear in the sewer. The demon walked towards Ellie and entered her body. When Ellie opened her eyes again, it was already the next day. The next day, Ellie changed into a convent habit. Sister Elizabeth told Ellie the cathedral would perform the exorcism for her today, but whether the demon could be driven out depended on her strong will. Led by Sister Elizabeth, Ellie came to a strange room where 2 nuns had been waiting. The lead nun, Susan, told Ellie that the cathedral's exorcism ritual was different from others. She needed to be blindfolded, enter the storeroom, and select one item from the shelves. These items all belonged to former hosts who had been possessed by demons. When a demon rejects a certain item, it signifies the demon fears it. The nuns will then use that item to suppress the demon. But touching the items also carries risk. Ellie's soul will be pulled into the corresponding world. She must resist the fear and silently repeat that it's all false. As the ritual began, Susan took out a black cloth and blindfolded Ellie. Then Ellie walked into the small chamber. She came to a shelf and casually picked up a mirror. In a daze, Ellie felt herself transported to another world. She saw 2 women sitting on a sofa watching television, yet just as they were engrossed, Sarah suddenly felt something behind her.
Can you feel that? What?
Hearing Sarah, the older woman looked back, but there was nothing in the room. The older woman thought her daughter misheard, but Sarah told her mother that for some reason, she always felt there was something unclean in the house. This wasn't the first time she had felt this way. Yet, faced with Sarah's fear, her mother thought she was being neurotic. Sarah also thought it might be her imagination. She returned to her room to remove her makeup and rest, but who could have known? When she picked up the mirror, she saw a bizarre scene. The terrifying sight frightened Sarah, but when she looked back, there was nothing in the room. Puzzled, Sarah picked up the mirror again, yet this time the mirror also showed nothing. Just as Sarah was confused, her mother suddenly appeared beside her. The next second, Ellie awoke from the vision. Although the scene was frightening, Ellie held on. She put down the mirror and fumbled on the shelf again. This time, she picked up some photographs. The next second, Ellie found herself in a pitch-black room. She saw a pregnant woman tied to a bed. The pregnant woman struggled fiercely, trying to free herself. Just then, a man entered the room. It turned out the man was a cultist. To summon a demon, the man intended to sacrifice his pregnant wife. He took a pillow and covered his wife's mouth and nose. Soon the woman on the bed lost all signs of life. However, just as the man was about to sacrifice his wife, the woman suddenly woke up, kicked the man away, and attempted to escape. But how could the man let her go? He took a knife from a box and brutally ended her life. Immediately after, he removed the child from her womb and placed the infant on the altar. Summoned by the man, a horned demon came to the mortal world. But the infant's soul was still insufficient. Under the demon's temptation, the man sacrificed himself. The horrifying scene terrified Ellie. She hurriedly put down the photos and escaped the hallucination. Because she removed the blindfold herself, the ritual had to restart. As the incantation sounded, Susan re-blindfolded Ellie. Entering the chamber again, Ellie selected a set of keys. This time, the protagonist was an old priest. The priest received a request to perform an exorcism at a household. According to Khaled, his wife suddenly stopped eating and drinking a month ago, then began to act mad and violent. The priest assured Khalid, claiming he was professional. Yet just before the ritual was to begin, the priest found an excuse to send Khalid away. He seized the chance to pull a shocking device from his bag and strap it onto the woman. With everything ready, the priest began his so-called exorcism ritual. Seeing his wife react, Khalid thought the priest genuinely had skill. He excitedly wanted to invite the priest to stay for dinner. The priest didn't think much and gladly accepted the invitation. Yet just as the priest was packing his gear, he lifted the bedsheet and discovered the woman on the bed had been awake the whole time. It turned out the woman was never possessed. The one possessed was actually Khalid. Khalid had been abusing his wife and wanted to kill her. The woman wanted the priest to help her escape, but the priest didn't want to get involved. He pretended to have urgent business and tried to leave. Khalid pulled out the prepared payment from his pocket, but while handling the money, the priest's conscience troubled him. He took advantage of Khalid being busy to steal the keys from his belt. Back in the room, the priest helped the woman untie her bonds, but just as he was about to escape with her, Khalid entered the room. Who could have known that during the struggle, Khalid was stabbed by the woman? Seeing a life had been taken, the priest wanted to flee. Who could have known? When he went outside, he saw the Khalid he had just seen killed, now standing in the kitchen. The priest went back inside, only to find the woman on the bed had transformed into his own daughter. Just then the woman entered the room. It turned out they were all cultists. They specifically targeted fraudulent priests. The old priest, realizing what was happening, tried to run, but when he pushed open the door, he found outside was a dark void. Putting down the keys, Ellie continued to grope on the shelf. This time she picked up a necklace. The next second, Ellie found herself in a room. She saw a completely naked woman getting up from bed. The woman's name was Alice. She had been having an affair with the neighbor next door. Yet when Alice got dressed and went downstairs, she was confronted by the neighbor's wife and her companions. Alice was tied to a chair. The woman pulled out a belt intending to teach Alice a lesson, but who could have known? During the whipping, the ropes binding Alice accidentally came loose. Fleeing in panic, Alice hid in the bedroom. Furious, the women burst through the door, but when they pulled back the covers, they saw a terrifying sight. The next second, Ellie awoke from the vision. She put down the necklace and began searching again. In a corner of the shelf, Ellie found a leather strap. This time, the protagonist was a possessed little girl named Monica. A priest came to the house wanting to exorcise Monica, but when he took out a crucifix, he discovered she wasn't possessed at all. The puzzled priest looked back at Monica's family. He suspected Monica was being abused. The priest untied Monica's bonds, wanting to call the police for help, but who could have known? Just as he prepared to take Monica away, Monica whispered something in the priest's ear. Looking at the crucifix on the wall, the priest turned back in horror, only to see Monica's family had transformed into demons. Before he could react, Monica grabbed the priest by the throat. The terrifying sight jolted Ellie awake from the dream. Just then, Ellie seemed to hear someone calling her name, but when she removed the blindfold, there was no one in the room. Just as Ellie thought the ritual had failed again, she spotted a massive crucifix in the corner. The crucifix seemed to possess a certain power, drawing Ellie towards it. Yet, the moment she touched the crucifix, Ellie lost consciousness. Meanwhile, Sister Elizabeth, while reviewing the exorcism records, discovered the demon inside Ellie was the legendary Archdemon Elitsimir. Once it enters darkness, this demon's power intensifies. Realizing something was wrong, Sister Elizabeth rushed to the exorcism site to halt the ritual. However, before Sister Elizabeth could finish speaking, Ellie, fully possessed by the demon, emerged from the room holding the cross. The demon, controlling Ellie, wanted to kill the lead nun, Mother Superior Susan, but the demon didn't know the nuns of St. Catherine's Cathedral were all high-level exorcists. The nun merely glanced, and the demon's power was severed. Ellie lost consciousness and collapsed to the floor. Looking at the crucifix in Ellie's hand, Sister Elizabeth deduced this might be the object the demon feared. They lifted the crucifix and began chanting incantations. Suppressed by the large crucifix, the demon within Ellie was successfully expelled. At the story's end, Mills came to the cathedral and took Ellie away. Yet the nuns failed to notice that in the corner of the storeroom, the crucifix that had suppressed the demon seemed somehow wrong. Clearly, the nun's story with the demon was only just beginning, though the movie ends here. That's the full breakdown of the 2025 latest exorcism blockbuster, St. Catherine. Overall, the film feels slightly awkward in parts. Alright, that's all for today's share. Stay tuned for more next time.